about the alt season because obviously it's a lot easier to look at the halving of Bitcoin, look at the decreased effect of miners on the price of Bitcoin. And in this particular case, I think altcoins are a lot more difficult to predict right now. We've talked about this in the past. Number one reason being most of the inflows are coming from Phantom Wallet into the cryptocurrency space. Phantom Wallet is known for the meme tokens. A lot of the liquidity from the public is going straight into meme tokens, as opposed to previous cycles. It would go into a centralized exchange, and the listing on the exchange was the most impactful indicator as to rise in price of different cryptocurrencies or alternative layer one. And the distinction here that's important for people that are not in the know is that a layer one project will have its own blockchain completely separated from all the other blockchains in most cases. Of course, there's different things that we could talk about, like parallel chains, etc., if we're going to go into like Komodo or a bunch of other stuff. But when we're talking about tokens, that's going to be on a layer on top of an individual cryptocurrency. Ethereum, obviously, being the layer one most famous for all of the all of the tokens built on top of it. And so the onboarding process goes get in via the layer one directly and then participate within that ecosystem. This is why previous cycles, of course, Ethereum was extremely profitable for GPU mining as well as performed really well, is because you had kind of a three-step process, right? You come in through a centralized exchange, you put your money into Ethereum, and then you'd go into the Ethereum ecosystem. You participate within the NFTs and the tokens on that system, the DeFi, and that would obviously bring up the fees on the network, making mining more profitable, as well as just pushing the price of Ethereum up because of the demand for that particular blockchain. What Phantom Wallet has done with Solana is streamline that process to where a lot of new users being onboarded into crypto are going directly into the layer 2 token solution on Solana within that ecosystem and spending all of that liquidity directly in there, as opposed to going through a centralized exchange. And if you talk to like any normies that have like Coinbase or crypto.com installed on their phone, a lot of times they're leaving a lot of their liquidity within that centralized exchange, and they're trading within that centralized exchange to then obviously hope that they see number go up, and they will see whatever layer one options are in there and purchase those directly. Now, the centralized exchanges this time, as opposed to previous cycles also, which is an important note, have begun essentially seeing what's popular in the token ecosystems, the layer 2 ecosystems, and then implementing those into their centralized exchanges, whether that be Trump token, Melania token, Fartcoin, whatever it may be. Then they're listing those, as opposed to previously what a lot of centralized exchanges would do is they would have their kind of rules and regulations for listing a particular layer 1 project. They would focus on those layer 1 projects, whether that be, Ethereum, Ravencoin, Ergo, whatever it might be, and then put those into the centralized exchanges. And when those new listings hit, there was an impact on the price, but a lot of that's gone away. Like I said, you can see the shift in the cryptocurrency market very clearly now over to this direct into the layer 2 ecosystem through Solana. The centralized exchanges are influenced by the DeFi and not the other way around, right? And I think that's important to take a look at when you are determining, obviously, what's going to happen in the altcoin market, especially as it pertains to the GPU mining space and the mining space as a whole, whether it's GPUs, CPUs, ASICs, and so on. Now, they do say on Cointelegraph that an alt season is coming. 40% daily gains to become the new normal, says an analyst. I don't know if I agree with this, but altcoin markets are flashing early signs of a breakout, with several analysts calling for potential surge over the next few months. Crypto commentator Mr. Crypto, which apparently they are huge fans of Mr. Crypto over here at Cointelegraph, predicts the next 3 to 6 months could be life-changing, suggesting daily gains of up to 40% may soon become the norm. In May 11th post on X, he pointed to a chart from blockchaincenter.net that shows whether the crypto market favors Bitcoin or altcoins. When the index is below 25, it's considered Bitcoin season, meaning Bitcoin is outperforming most altcoins. And when it's above 75, it's altcoin season, meaning altcoins doing better than Bitcoin. Currently, the chart shows a breakout from a downtrend just below the 29 mark, suggesting a possible shift away from the Bitcoin dominance. This breakout hints that altcoins may be starting to gain momentum, potentially entering a period where they outperform Bitcoin. And then it goes on to say that others see the rally, but warn it's not the same as previous cycles. Analyst 2 Lambros agrees that the altcoin season may have arrived, but says the dynamics have changed. Quote, people want to bid, but lack belief in any strong narrative, end quote, he wrote on X. He noted that unlike 2021, there's no sign of retail investors entering the market. Traders are rotating capital faster with little incentive to hold long-term positions. Technical trader Mustache offered a more optimistic view. He shared a chart showing repeating altcoin accumulation phases followed by explosive growth. According to him, the current structure mirrors those of 2016 and 2020, saying, quote, altcoin season 2025 has officially begun. However, skeptics remain, and commentator Wrecked Fencer pointed out that most altcoins have been down 90% since December. A modest 10% bounce this week sparked exaggerated optimism, prompting him to mock the rally. This is the altcoin season we've all been waiting for, he joked. And then he has this big downward trend. Of course, if we looked at CoinMarketCap, this is the 7-day, and this is my list of, proof of work cryptocurrencies. And I think, like, obviously we can click in on any single one of these. I think one that's been around, let's do Dogecoin, right? Let's do all. And you can see here, this is 2021, the last cycle going up to, 60 cents or somewhere around there. And, the top of this cycle was like 46 cents. And if you wanted to say essentially that we had an altcoin season, usually there's the first pump of Bitcoin, and then there's an altcoin season, and then there's the second pump of Bitcoin, and then the altcoin season. So we had the first one presumably going up to like the $10,000 mark almost, or something along those lines, hitting a new all-time high. Bitcoin's currently, over the previous all-time high price of like 70,000. And you would expect altcoins at this time in the cycle to already be at, for Dogecoin at this point to be above 60 cents at least. If you were to say that the cycles were similar to previous cycles, I'm not seeing it personally. So I tend to be a skeptic in this one personally. But this does go on to say the crypto market started the weekend with strong bullish momentum driven by renewed investor confidence. Bitcoin surged to $104,000, just 4% below its all-time high after President Donald Trump announced positive developments in U.S.-China trade talks. The rally extended beyond Bitcoin, with Ethereum posting one of its best daily performances in weeks. Of course, it's at 2,600, and I believe if we go over here, this shouldn't be hard to find, and we go to all... we would need to be above 4,600 approximately to meet 2021 cycle, and we hit maybe just 4,000. So still not new all-time highs. You should technically be at an all-time high for Ethereum. Not happening, right? So it's just example after example of like altcoins just not quite hitting, all-time highs compared to previous cycles. The rally extended beyond Bitcoin, like it says, And then it goes on to say, quote, crypto rallied on a wave of global optimism, end quote. Hank of Kronos Research told Cointelegraph. Ceasefire talks between India and Pakistan eased regional tensions, while news on U.S.-China trade tariffs signaled renewed cooperation between major economies. I don't know if that impacts the altcoin market. Like I said, I really honestly think it has more to do with the essentially with Solana, right? And Solana, for example, right, we were at in 2021 236, and Solana at its peak this last time hit above 250. So Solana is outperforming other alternative cryptocurrencies. And then if you look at like the trading ecosystem and liquidity over within Solana, it's pretty clear that that's where a lot of the retail money is headed. And so I think we're talking about I think we're really talking less about, how do I put this? Less about the altcoin season and more about really honestly meme token season, right? And at the end of the day, that's really what we're discussing when we're talking about, will we see another altcoin season? I think or will we see an altcoin season? My answer would be yes, but it's going to be in layer 2 DeFi, not in the traditional affect all other altcoins like Dogecoin or whatever it may be, right? I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And from the mining perspective, it really is going to come down to, I think, flexibility, right? So in the mining equipment itself, flexibility within that, being able to mine multiple projects, being able to shift on a dime, merge mining, obviously a big deal, all these types of things, because there is no way to tell which way the wind is going to blow outside of just knowing that a majority of the liquidity will go into essentially your tokens, right? And to say that we have an altcoin season, I think you would have to say most altcoins are above previous all-time highs. And if that's not the case, then I don't know that you can quantify it as an altcoin season. You can say, yeah, we're up 40%, but we're coming up 40% from a 90% downturn over the past year, right? And so it's like, it's not really I don't think that would be an altcoin season. At least from my definition, I don't think that would be at all, right? I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. If you would like to see more from this particular episode, take a look up here. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com and become a member. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.